if you're listening to this episode, there's a 70 to 90% chance that you need to lose weight. You're probably an American, and 70 to 90% of Americans need to lose weight. And you know that you're eating things and you're making stupid decisions to eat them. So just stop making the stupid decisions.
Hey, Uncommon Leaders, welcome back. This is the Uncommon Leader Podcast. I'm your host, John Gallagher. You know, we talk a lot about systems for predictable personal growth. We talk about business growth, but today we're focusing on the most important system that exists, and that's our health. That's our fitness. And I've got a great guest today, Bryan White, a PhD scientist, a CrossFit Level 3 trainer, and the founder of Blue Eagle Fitness and Nutrition. He's worked with hundreds of professionals from Shell Corporation to Estee Lauder to help them change 1 minute at a time, and we'll talk about this during the show today, his book, How He's Changing 1 Minute at a Time, and how he's helping people ultimately live fit and fulfilled lives. Bryan knows you don't really rise to your goals, but you fall to the level of the systems that you have in place, and he's here to share a few tips with us about how some of those small, consistent, believe it or not, 1 minute changes in our habits can make a powerful, big difference in our lives. So Bryan White, welcome to the Uncommon Leader Podcast. Great to have you on the show. How you doing today?
Awesome. Thanks, John. Really happy to be here. Excited to for our conversation, talk more really about structure and how we can take just those small steps to get where we want to be.
No, and let's jump right into that, those small steps. I mean, the book is those 1 minute wins, right? And how in the world can a 1 minute win help me to transform my health and become fitter and more fulfilled?
Yeah. So first of all, it will always depend on where you are in your journey. So, I have a 20-year-old daughter. She swims Division I. I don't have 1 minute tips for her. Maybe a little bit on mindset, but the reality is most of us are stressed. We're sleepy. We walk down the street and our heart and lungs are burning and beating out of our chest. There are simple things that we can do to live a longer, happier, healthier life. And that's what the book is about. Nothing in there is complicated. Even the cooking, I have a few chapters on cooking. There's actually a little video. There's a QR code on each page. It shows a video of me doing it. Like put in the air fryer, pop it in the air, be on for 10 minutes, take out the food, pour it in a plate and eat it, right? I mean, this is...
Really can't be that simple? Is that what you're saying?
It can absolutely be simple. Now, you can make it complicated, and that's where the reality is that big corporations and lots of people who want to take your money, they overcomplicate it. Now you need their coaching or you need this or that. I get it, but there are plenty of simple, easy, small steps we can take in a variety of areas of our lives to get people where they want to be physically and mentally.
Well, I love that. And I know, Bryan, again, I know a little bit about your story. I've been a guest on your podcast as well. Folks, I think you should go take a listen to his podcast as well. You'd really love it. And some of the guests he has on there ultimately have some very powerful stories. But your story is one just like those who listen to this podcast as well. You were one of those busy leaders. Tell me a little bit about your story and really what led you to being able to understand the power of these 1 minute changes.
Sure. So, and the book does follow like my literal journey that get me where I am today, which is, by the way, where I today. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I have a great relationship with my wife. I have a great relationship with my kids. I can go out to eat at a restaurant, eat whatever I want, and I'm between 10 and 12% body fat. When I go into my annual physical, I give more advice to my doctor than she gives to me. I'm in a good place physically and mentally. I'm in a great place. And how did I get here? Because I've not always been here. So I have a PhD in chemistry, which is a weird place for a lot of people to start any of these stories. So I went and worked for a major oil company, worked for Shell for about 15 years. This was 2012, summer of 2012. I was on beach vacation with my wife, with my family, but kids were staying with my parents. And so it was just me and my wife in the room. And one day I walked by the mirror and I had what I call a mirror moment. It doesn't have to be in a mirror, but for me, it was literally a mirror moment where you look in the mirror and you go, this ain't good. This is not good. You're right. So I was about 35 years old, not in a healthy place, and knew that I needed to make a change. And I didn't know exactly what big complicated changes I need to make, but I knew there were simple things that I could do. Number one was I knew every day I needed to get my heart rate up. So that day I went on a jog, and then I turned the jog into more of a run and into a sprint, and then when I was done, I walked back to the room. Right. I mean, that was kind of the first step in that journey. And then I started this nutrition program, super complicated nutrition program called Don't Eat Stupid. So I knew, yeah, super complicated. Don't eat stupid.
Yeah.
The reality is, if you're listening to this episode, there's a 70 to 90% chance that you need to lose weight. You're probably an American, and 70 to 90% of Americans need to lose weight. And you know that you're eating things and you're making stupid decisions to eat them. So just stop making the stupid decisions. So, one example I give, my first step was every day for lunch, I had a 44-ounce Coke with no ice. And when I say 44 ounces of Coke, I mean, there's no ice in there. And I would let it, you put it in the dispenser, it comes out, I'm at the fountain drink, and it bubbles up, and you let the bubbles sit down. So the first thing I did was I wouldn't refill, like I would just let the bubbles come down. And so I took it from like 44 ounces to maybe like 40 ounces or 42 ounces, right? And so I started limiting the stupid ways that I was eating. So, again, this doesn't have to be overly complicated. Now, those steps don't get you to lose 30 pounds. Let's be clear. You got to do more, but we're going to start somewhere. And so the starting is really where most people run into the biggest problems.
I love that, because that starting, and again, you and I talked about this on your podcast, many times individuals, when they have that mirror moment, the start is drastic. Yeah. And so the diet becomes reduced calories to something that's not even healthy, and it's clearly not sustainable. So literally, it is a 1-minute change to say, instead of letting the foam roll down and fill it up to 44 ounces, we're just going to fill it up once and let the foam roll back down to 40 ounces. Those 4 ounces of Coke, I mean, they're representing 30 to 40 calories. You do that 7 days a week, and it's going to add up pretty fast in terms of understanding that. And then I loved how you kind of went through and you started putting ice in it as well. So that reduced the amount of Coca-Cola that you had.
Exactly.
For me, it was that stop eating French fries moment inside of the every day with my lunch, and trying to replace it with a decent vegetable, whatever that means. Ultimately, it's starting with something small and then building on those habits over and over again. So well done in terms of making that change. Well done in terms of making it sustainable. And if your daughter, you said now, if you look how many years back that was, now she's a swimmer in college. Clearly what you modeled with regards to your personal transformation was something that went over to her as well.
Oh yeah. Now we're getting into the question, I own a gym, Blue Eagle Fitness and Nutrition. I have all kinds of conversations. My top 2 conversations right now are with women ages 45 to 55 experiencing perimenopausal hormonal shifts and how to adjust and change that. The second conversation I have, and I mean, I have these multiple times a week, second conversation is, how do I get my kids to eat healthy or work out or to be disciplined? Step 1, super simple. Do it yourself. You have to model it. You don't get to sleep in and then complain. I say sleep in. My daughter in the swimming world, practice. I don't care where you are. Practice at a high level is at 5 a.m. Right. You don't get to sleep in and then complain to your kid how they need to be more disciplined and get to practice at 5 a.m. Right. That's just not the way the world works. That's not the way your kids are going to work. You got to model it. Right. You don't get to eat the French fries and the hamburger and tell them that they need to be fueling their bodies with, salad and lean meats and high quality fats and, small, and half a baked potato, right? You don't get to do that while you're munching on the hamburger and French fries.
That's exactly right. I mean, again, there's more is caught than is taught. There's no doubt about it. And, that was something that I realized back on my journey almost 10 years ago now, where I really got started and got serious about health, is that if I'm going to coach individuals on any type of behavioral change, who in the world am I to be coaching them on, living more healthy, when here I was basically 80 pounds overweight myself, and realizing that folks kept telling me, oh, you're not fat, you're just big bone, or whatever that meant. I look back on those days, that mirror moment for me, whatever that is, I was fat, whether they were I needed to get rid of all those friends who were telling me that I wasn't. Being able to hold folks accountable. And you mentioned starting the business too. So I am very curious. I've not heard this story, but I'd like to know how it ended up being going from bachelor's in chemistry, PhD in chemistry, working for a large oil company, making a great salary in terms of what you've done and the sales position you're in. And now you're going to go and open up a gym and try and train. How did you get to that point?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So first of all, my wife has a PhD in chemical engineering. She also works for a major oil company. So it was both of us working that corporate life, and we both knew that we were working our way up in the company at such a rate that anyone who works in corporate knows that they just suck more and more out of you, right? Which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
There's pros and cons to that. But for both of us, while we still wanted to be great parents, we still wanted to be involved in our kids' lives. And we also knew from the very beginning of our relationship, we met in college. We met the week before our freshman year in college. So we've known each other a long time, that she was always a corporate person. Okay. While I'm like I'll do anything. I'll run my own business. I'll work in corporate. Run a charity. Like, there are options, and I'm happy with all the options. So we reached a point in our lives, in our family, that one of us needed to step away from corporate and not have that rigid structure of hours. And it was pretty clear, again, from the beginning of our marriage, that person was always going to me, and I was cool with that. So I actually found myself in a position, there's something, when God speaks to me, he's always very clear. And a couple of things I've learned when God speaks to me. Number one is, rarely is it ever about my happiness. And you can look at scripture, and very rarely does God call someone else to be happy, right? He calls someone to serve him on his behalf. He did not call Jonah to be happy, right? He did not call Moses.
Yeah, he didn't say go and be happy. It's exactly right. He did not say go. He said go and make disciples, right? Absolutely. Yep.
That's exactly right. So he put me in a situation at work where it was abundantly clear that I needed to leave corporate. Did not exactly know what I was going to do after that. So I actually took a year off and was a stay-at-home dad. Cool part about being a stay-at-home dad is that was not where God wanted me. If anyone is a stay-at-home dad, or a stay-at-home dad, I support them. There are not societal or natural support systems for stay-at-home dads. He doesn't have the Monday, Wednesday, Friday book club, or the men's tennis league at 10 a.m. on Tuesday. Like, that doesn't exist for stay-at-home dads. And so that was part of it. But the other part was, I still knew that God wanted me to serve my community. And so then I started searching for ways of doing that. There were several options that I was choosing or looking into, but CrossFit. So I own a CrossFit gym. We do personal training. We do adult CrossFit classes. We do nutrition coaching, and we have a senior adult program. And when I say senior adult, our average age is 82. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
When I say senior adult, I mean senior adult. I mean 55 plus. Okay. So I knew he wanted me to serve my community, and CrossFit had such a profound impact on my life and my marriage. I just wouldn't be here with my wife or my kids without it. And so I thought, I needed to give back to God, give back to my community in what I had been given. And so started this CrossFit gym to serve my community, to just help people live longer, happier, healthier lives, and break through all of the misinformation that there is out there on what healthy is supposed to be and what you should be doing. We need to be working out at high intensity. We need to be lifting heavy weights. We need to be eating more fruits and vegetables. Anyone telling you anything differently is trying to take your money in some other way.
Yeah, there's no silver bullet. And I was thinking about that. Is one of the things I remember during my journey, it was almost impossible to out-exercise a bad diet. You got to have a dose of both of them. And like you said, eat fruits and veggies. And you actually have those as foundational principles inside the 12 foundational habits that go along with that. Lift heavy weights, move every hour, eat veggies, eat fruit. and drink water. So those things are very simple with regards to the nutrition. I love some of the others that you really go into the book, and I won't be able to touch on all 12, but I may come back to some of the nutrition ones. But you have one in there that says, say something nice about yourself as one of the foundational habits to living a fit and fulfilled life. Tell me about that foundational principle or habit.
Yeah. So people ask me what I do, on a day-to-day basis. And the joke is I spend most of my time telling beautiful women that they're beautiful. I mean, men, we have a confidence, and usually we have a confidence in ourselves and in the way we look. Women are the opposite, right? They see one of the fittest women in my gym was complaining the other day because her ribs are misaligned. What are we doing? What are we doing? You just went to the doctor. You got a perfect result. Like, this is what we were going for. This is what we've been training for. You go to the doctor, you get a perfect result, and that's your takeaway. Like, what is happening? And so I came up with this principle. Look in the mirror. There are simple steps. You don't start with this, and this is like day 4. But we try to get you to the point of being able to look in the mirror, look yourself in the eye in the mirror, and say something nice about yourself. In fact, that's probably day 7 or 8, because we start with just looking and say something neutral, like, I have a nose. Like, that is neither good nor bad. Just get used to looking yourself in the eyes and speaking, right? And speak something to your. Always be truthful. We're not here to lie to ourselves. There are some speakers who think, you can kind of lie to yourself and kind of speak future truth into you. That's fine. That's just not what I teach. But my wife loves my eyes. So I can look at myself in the mirror and say, Celeste thinks you have beautiful eyes. I don't even need to agree with her, right? But it's still a positive statement. It is a positive, true statement that I can look myself in the mirror in the eyes and say to myself. I've actually started before I get up, when I wear a watch that buzzes and wakes me up. And before I get out of bed, I will say something nice, something good that I did yesterday. Just anything good. I called a friend who I hadn't talked to in a while. Or, great job building up my youngest is 9 years old. Great job building up your 9-year-old at breakfast. We eat breakfast together, just the two of us. Most mornings, just the two of us eat breakfast on the weekdays. Something. I have done something. Even if it's every day, it doesn't have to change, right? It doesn't have to be something new. So when you start looking for the red car, all you see are red cars.
That's right.
Right. And so the one thing that you did that's positive about yourself or about others or about how you treated someone, then you just start noticing it more. And then this also goes along with my coaching, the way that I coach people. I coach the positive. When someone's moving, we need to get someone to move well. And so there's a lot of correction that happens, especially when someone joins the gym for the first time at 50 years old. They do not move well. No 50-year-old who hasn't been working out with a coach moves well. It just doesn't happen. But I've taught my coaches, we coach the positive. What's a great thing that they're doing? I love the way that your feet are set up on this deadlift. Now let's adjust our grip, right? I haven't said anything negative yet. I didn't say your grip is wrong. All right.
Hey, Uncommon Leaders. Hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I believe in doing business with people you like and trust and not just a company name. That's why a strong personal brand is essential, whether you're an entrepreneur or a leader within a company. Brand Builders Group, the folks who have been helping me refine my own personal brand, are offering a free consultation call with one of their expert brand strategists. They'll help you identify your uniqueness, craft a compelling story, and develop a step-by-step plan to elevate your impact. So head on over to CoachJohnGallagher.com/BBG, as in Brand Builders Group, to schedule your free call and take the first step toward building a personal brand that gets you noticed for all the right reasons. That's CoachJohnGallagher.com/BBG. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Coach the positive and build it up. And I try to do that with myself. Just coach the positive. Look at the positive thing that I did and remind myself that I did it.
Love that. Coach the positive inside of that. And the mindset can be so powerful. And if we let it, and you mentioned, right at the start of that as humans, we have a tendency to find that negative. It's very easy to find the negative, whether it's in our work or, again, whether it's in our own body and things like that. And the way you coach. So you talked about one of those stories and come on, you've got to have a great story that, through this type of approach where you've seen a transformation in somebody and just made a big change. Do you have a favorite story that you like to share?
So, the favorite story that I like to share is I had a mom reach out to me and say, "Hey, can you coach my son?" So just started. He had not worked out ever, and started working out with him. And he had the biggest case of the shoulds that I've ever seen. So the shoulds, you start something new. Well, I should be able to do this, right? You just started, lifting weights. I should be able to deadlift 225. Why? This is the third time you've ever touched a barbell. Why? Why do you? Well, he can. I'm probably stronger than he is. Well, first of all, the guy you're pointing at is twice your size. Second of all, he's been lifting for 15 years. Like, no, right? And our comparisons are terrible, right? One of the biggest transformations that I've seen was coaching someone and not only watching him lose 30 pounds of fat, gain 10 pounds of muscle. And this took about 2 years, 18 months to 2 years for that physical transformation to happen, but also to see the positive transformation that happened with the self-talk, right? And if it's funny, as a coach, I've learned in order for me to get my clients' self-talk to improve, the first thing I need to get them to do is to get my voice in their head. Okay, my voice in their head, telling them the good things about it, okay? Then the next step, like now we reach another level where they hear their own voice saying the good things about going on in their life, okay? But getting to that step, like that's where we want to be. We want to be in a world where, because maybe John, do you have a voice going on in your head?
All the time, absolutely. Both my own and others. I'm thinking about those voices of influence.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. I mean, I have a voice that goes on in my head in many different situations, depending on who it is. And you mentioned a former trainer. I mean, I'll mention her name now. I have Margot, who was my trainer that I walked in and met in 2017, who trained me for 3 years on my journey. And I can hear her say on some of these things that you can do anything for 30 seconds. Just keep going, kind of thing. Or if I'm on a run, it's a cousin saying, don't stop when you're tired, stop when you're finished. I mean, those types of things. So those voices are always there to keep me going. Absolutely. No doubt about it. That's so fun. You think about that, like those that have come in, generally, they probably know what they need to do to be healthy. They just aren't able to really see that. What's the biggest barrier that you see when you have somebody, a 50-year-old walks in, doesn't know how to move, doesn't know how to lift the weights, whatever it is? What's the biggest barrier that you're having to overcome?
Yeah. So first of all, everybody, again, if you're listening to this podcast, you live in a first world country and you know what you need to do. You know you need to exercise, move more. Hopefully at this point, you know that you need to lift heavier weights and you need to eat more fruits and vegetables and lean meats. Almost everyone I've talked to knows those things. Okay. And yet they don't do it, and at least they're not doing it enough. So what are there are two things standing in their way. The first is coaching. And this blows my mind. When my daughter was 6 years old, the one who now swims for the University of Houston, when she was 6 years old, she said, "Hey, Dad, I want to be on a swim team." Cool. So what did I do? I went and found a team that had a coach, and the coach coached her. I didn't just take her to a pool and say, "Okay, jump in and start swimming," right? And so how many people, they know they need to exercise, so they go join a big box gym, and the only thing they get with the membership is they get to walk in the door and see all the equipment and stuff, and like, okay, go for it. You would never do that to your kid who plays baseball. Okay, take him to a field and with a bat and a glove and say, "Okay, go play." You would never do that, right? But we do that to ourselves. So the first thing is find a coach. For me, part of my fitness journey was realizing that the first 3 or 4 coaches I had were terrible. They had no idea what they were doing, but still it was a learning process, right? It was still a learning process for me to know what a good coach was. But finding a coach is step one. Step two, build structure into your life. I work out at 5 a.m. I wake up at 4:05. I roll out. My toothbrush is ready. The toothpaste is ready. My gym clothes and shoes are right there with a little bit of other equipment. I on my way to the car is the fruit bowl, grab a banana, grab my drink, and go. Right? I mean, that's done. That's my morning. And by the time it's 5:30, I'm halfway done with my workout, and I'm now just starting to wake up. Right? That's my structure. You have to have structure. And I know that you speak to leaders, and every leader listening to this podcast has structure in their business life, right? You don't randomly become a leader without some sort of structure that you follow on a regular basis. Apply that principle to other aspects of your life. Build in structure. You want to improve your marriage, go on a date. Every second Friday, you go on a date. You want to improve your fitness, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, go to your workout, preferably at a CrossFit gym, with a coach who can get your heart rate up and move some heavy weight, right? You need to lose weight, eat a salad for lunch. So my dad, I love him, taught me a ton about money. But he's on the cheaper end of life, right? So I grew up, I never ordered an appetizer until I got married, right? I mean, you go, right? I didn't know that was a thing. They're like, do you want an appetizer? My wife's like, yes. And I'm like, I've never heard the yes to this question before, right? So we go out to eat and you only order, the entree and water. Like that is no appetizer, nothing, and no dessert, right? You order an entree and you order water. That's the way he still operates. But when he goes out to eat with me, I want a house salad. What's on the house salad? Don't care. Just bring me a house salad. Put the dressing on the side and I'll figure it out. And he's like, why do you always order a salad? Because that's my structure, right? For when I go anywhere out to eating a salad with the salad dressing on the side, man, it's tough. You keep doing that and you can lose some weight, right? You can have the body composition you want when you do that. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. So that structure is what you need.
And for that, find a coach and the structure, both those things. I mean, the habits, the disciplines, and scheduling those things into your day. And, many folks that you mentioned, even, your dad being a little frugal on the no appetizer, you're not going to get a 44-ounce Coke, that's for sure. That's not, going to be with your meal. And maybe that was one of the reasons you did that as well as you got to be an adult. But we can talk about that on a separate podcast. But the idea behind the coach, folks, and this is another thing. I mean, as I'm an executive coach and a consultant, it's not just about come and hire me as your coach, but it's about finding someone who's been where you want to go as well. It can be something to get you going, to find someone to emulate and who's been there before. You mentioned those other bad coaches. I mean, hey, you got to find out their credentials and ultimately what's there. And we got to be around people that are a lot smarter than us in a lot of areas of our life. You said it, in our finances, in our faith. Find a spiritual mentor who's going to get you to a place you couldn't get there before. Your work, your health, your relationships, all those things are so important to have someone to, advise and guide you on that journey. And it takes us a long time as adults to break down and admit that we need help inside of that space. Yeah. But I love that you start right off with that. Find out someone who's smarter than you and put them in the room with you ultimately to help you get better. So cool.
Absolutely.
When you think about your book, it came out about a year ago, and folks who will read it, and I love the structure of the book because it can be as simple as you said, just 1 minute a day, and then scan the QR code with a video as to how to actually watch that happening. Read that over the course of the year. But when folks close that thing out at the end and they've read your book, what do you want them to think? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do when they're done with it?
Yeah. So the absolute best transformation that can happen is you at the end of implementing parts of the book. And I'll tell you, if you only implement a third of the chapters, it will still transform your life. But the best that you can come away with is that you don't feel like anything has changed in your life. Like it is so subtle. The changes that you have made were so subtle that they're now sustainable that you can build on for the rest of your life. And so one of the best pieces of feedback that I get now is, Bryan, you're so weird. Like, why am I weird? Right? Well, because tonight's Friday night. We're going to go out to eat and I'm going to order a steak, a baked potato, and some grilled vegetables. And you're like, you're so weird. And I'm going to start with a salad. And I'm like, what's weird about, like, how is this weird? How is eating this delicious steak, enjoying and savoring every single bite, with this baked sweet potato, and to have the place we're going to go, I'm actually going to love the salad dressing. And so, I mean, I'm going to savor and enjoy every bite, and it's going to cost me about 650 calories with about 80 grams of protein and about 250 grams of fruits and vegetables. And those are the measurements that I use. They're just the easiest for me. kind of walk you through to make how to make it easy for you in the book. And I'm going to love every bite, and I'm going to enjoy the conversation with my family. How am I the weird one? And I'm the weird one because my table didn't order the bloomin' onion, right? We didn't order the fried pickles. And order, each one of us get a cocktail, plus we're going to get a bottle of wine, right? I mean, and then we're going to get the chocolate mountain fudge sickle. I mean, and I'm the weird one. My kids, why? So I did learn. So my kids, I have three daughters, 20, 17, and 9. Okay. So the 9 is still kind of coming into her own, but the 20 and the 17-year-old, do you know what an almond parent is?
No.
Okay, an almond parent. Here you go. An almond parent is a parent who is so health conscious that your kids are embarrassed to bring their friends over to your house because you don't have anything good to eat in the pantry. I mean,
for raw almonds.
Yeah, exactly. So it's called an almond parent. So I found this out because my 20-year-old and my 17-year-old were arguing with each other on were we almond parents or were we just close? And so, like, the 17-year-old's like, definitely, like, they're the most almond, none of my friends want to come over. My 20-year-old's like, nah, they're not that bad. But yeah, that's an almond parent, is where we don't have Doritos, and Cokes in the pantry for anyone to come over and just start noshing on, right?
Obviously that's going to be a big part of this. I don't know if it's going to end up the title of the show or not, the almond parents or not, but so cool. To understand that. Bryan, I think, by the way, you said that about the weird side as well. It is the uncommon. You mentioned it. 70 to 90% of, adults in the United States are overweight, and they've, higher or a lower percentage, but certainly still too high of a percentage are obese.
Yep.
The onset of, the disease that we have in our country, whether it's diabetes or obesity or congestive heart failure, all those things that ultimately are a result of us not taking care of ourselves over time, is very uncommon and often seen as weird. No doubt about it. I mean, we're supposed to rely on our healthcare system just to give us the magic pill to fix all those things for us. And goodness gracious, we don't have enough time to talk about the healthcare system. As you said at the start, you're the one training your physician how
Correct.
to stay in shape and things like that. And I do remember getting my blood work back one time, and the physician assistant says, "Man, I wish my blood work was as good as what your blood work is." And I say, "Well, it can be, right? In terms of if you're just a little bit weird, if you turn into an almond parent, it might be there." So it's a matter of prioritizing what you really want. I've enjoyed this conversation. I want to keep going. I also want to honor your time and putting this together. Bryan, where do folks connect with you? I think they got to go out there and get connected with you and also get a copy of your book.
Yeah, so you can find me. You can find my gym at blueeaglefitness.com, and then you can learn more about me at busypeoplegettingfit.com. And then I host the Peak Performers Getting Fit podcast. You can find that on YouTube and Spotify. All of those have links to my book. The book is 1 Minute Fitness, $20 on Amazon. I'm not going to say it's the most valuable $20 because there are lots of values out there, but you're going to get well worth your money in the $20 for the actual. Now, if you don't know that you need to lose weight, if you don't know, like, the book is not there to convince you of anything. The book is there to say, okay, you've made the step, you need
You've
to do
made the choice. Yep.
Made the choice. Here are the very specific steps you can do to improve your sleep. Here are 30 specific
I appreciate
steps
that. Yep.
do in 1 minute to improve your sleep, for example.
I love that. And again, because that's the most important part. And hopefully there's some folks on this show that have listened in and said, it is time for me to make that decision that, I don't want to be that unhealthy person that I do. And you mentioned the age group, but again, I don't want to certainly reveal my wife's age on this podcast, but one things we're just talking about today, as she continues to embark on her fitness journey, is that it is about how she feels, but it's also about, should we have grandkids in the future and how we can, be active with our grandkids. And we've talked about things like we want to be able to dance at our grandchild's wedding kind of thing in terms of where we really want to be in the future. And that's a different kind of why in terms of what will get you to take some of these habits that you're talking about that just really need 1 minute a day, but they do need structure and they do need a coach. Bryan, I'm going to ask you one question. This will give you the last word on the show before we check out. I'll make sure to put all the links in the show notes with regards to your book and your website. Gosh, I'd love to even talk about, I mean, I love that domain name in terms of how you went out there and found that with regards to putting that together, or even what Blue Eagle Fitness meant. Doesn't matter. We're out of time in terms of that goes. But I'm going to give you a billboard. You can put a message, any message you want to on that billboard for folks to see. What's the message that you're going to put on that billboard, and why do you put that message on there?
Yeah, so that's a struggle for me. I'm stuck between, two. One is find a coach, right? When in doubt, and that's true for literally every area of your life. Find a coach. So I would either put that on there, or I would say build structure into your system. Have whether that's have a plan. You don't just wake up and motivate. The insane part is like, I'm going to go work out when I feel motivated. Do you go to work when you feel motivated? Do you parent your kids when you feel motivated? That's not the way this works, right? You just do it. Same with taking care of yourself. You just do it. And there's a structure in place that you follow and that you do. But probably the simplest would probably be find a coach up on the billboard.
Excellent. Find a coach. Bryan, you've been such a fantastic guest. Folks, I know that you've listened to this and you either recognize how you need to change, and I think you got to take some action for this, or you also know someone else who needs to hear this message. I would encourage you to share it with someone else so that they can hear this message. We need to get this message of health into the hands of so many more people that exist today. And if you enjoyed the episode, certainly we'd love for you to go out there and write a review. Do the same thing. Go out there with Bryan and take a look at his website and check out Blue Eagle Fitness also to understand some of the things that he's doing on his podcast to continuously share this message. But ultimately, this is really about you growing yourself as a leader. This is about you growing yourself as a person. And we appreciate, if you've gotten to this point in the podcast, we appreciate that you've been here, and thank you for sharing the time with us. Bryan White, thank you so much. I wish you much success in the future.
Thank you, John. I really enjoyed being here.
Until next time, go and grow champions.